welcome back to the United Stand and happy Monday morning. The Premier League season is over. We still have an FA Cup to go and win. Manchester United seem very confident going into that game. Are you guys confident? But the transfer window is upon us. INEOS, Sergi Ratcliffe, what have they got for us this transfer window? What sort of deals will Manchester United be doing? I think that Manchester United will be doing quick deals where we have release clauses, the easy deals that we can do. I don't think Manchester United will be hanging around all summer trying to get just one player in here, one player in there. Similar to the De Jong saga, I think this time it's going to be about quick deals. Who can we get in quickly that is going to improve this team? Who can we sell quickly as well? Get in the comments down below what you would like to see. A little bit of news on the Olise deal, Todibo deal as well. Two quick deals that Manchester United could get done. Frimpong, is he someone that's going to be on the agenda? Also, Zerbi, speaking how he wants a Premier League job, but he's not got a job lined up. Could he be a candidate to replace Ten Hag? Because as much as we all want Ten Hag to stay, and I'm not going to speak for everyone because I know there is people in the chat that would probably want him to go. He has just finished 8th, our worst ever league position as a manager in the Premier League. But there is a lot of people, I'd say the majority of people, that want Ten Hag to stay. But it's not written in stone what it is going to be Ten Hag's future. Sergi Ratcliffe and INEOS will make a decision after the cup final. They could be keeping everything very, very quiet because they're planning to sack Ten Hag after the cup final. And they don't want to put it out there yet because they don't want to distract away from it. They could be thinking about giving him a new contract. We don't know. But Zerbi, now that he's left Brighton, is he somebody that we know that INEOS has had kind of not contact with in the past, but they've liked him in the past and they have connections with him in the past? Is he somebody that could come in to replace Ten Hag, and is that likely? We're going to talk about that as well. Also, some comments from Onana on the overlap with Gary Neville. I've just watched the full interview before I've done the going live with you guys, and I thought it was a really interesting and insightful interview. And I know Onana has mixed reviews. I know some people in the community aren't happy with the way that he's played this season. I know some people are warming to him. I know some people really like him. I think watching that interview gives you a good insight into what it takes to be a Manchester United goalkeeper, adapting to the Premier League, some comments on Ten Hag as well. And I think Onana is going to be a good signing for us going forward, and I think he will be a good goalkeeper for Manchester United. But get all your comments down in the chat. Happy Monday morning, everybody, and welcome to the United Stand. First and foremost, does Zerbi wants the United job? Question mark. Does Zerbi want the United job? Well, I think if it was offered to him, he'd definitely take it. He's speaking about how he doesn't know what he'll do without football. He's going to have to watch a lot of football. He's going to study football. He loves it. It consumes his life. If you watch Roberto De Zerbi's sides, you can tell how much he's obsessed with his style of football and how much he loves football. He's got a very distinct style that I will not change for anyone. This season for Brighton, it's not gone really according to plan. I think Brighton ended up finishing, did they end up finishing, I think 10th was it in the Premier League, which again is a good place for Brighton really, but they have finished higher than that in recent years. Oh no, they ended up finished 11th actually. Crystal Palace finished above Brighton this season. So realistically, that's not a good season for Brighton. He had a lot of losses in 2024. In 2024, really, Brighton have been quite poor, to be honest with you. I know they've had massive injury crisis the same way that we have, so you can kind of understand that. But De Zerbi has his own distinct style. He's a very well-respected manager. Pep Guardiola absolutely, raves about him, and you'd say Pep Guardiola is the best current manager of our time and one of the best managers of all time as well. So Roberto De Zerbi, he's got a lot of tick boxes on his CV. A lot of people do like him, but this season hasn't been a great one for Brighton. And to be honest with you, I do think he is a little bit overhyped. I think De Zerbi's a type of manager where, I mean, I can't read the future, nobody can, but I think he could go to a top club and he could either be absolutely elite, unbelievable manager and just is incredible, or he could go to a top club and absolutely fail. And I feel like with Manchester United, with the structure that we've got in at the moment, we're not fully established yet. We are just building this new structure under Sergi and INEOS. I don't think it's the best time to get in a manager like De Zerbi. I think you get a De Zerbi in when the foundations are fully set and you are just completely well-oiled functioning machine. I think De Zerbi would work so much better if he went to the likes of a Manchester City, where the structure is already there in place for him. I think De Zerbi and Manchester United right now, I just don't think it would be a great fit. I think it's a huge risk. I mean, Brighton we talk about how the fact that Manchester United can hold some goals sometimes. Brighton have had a good battering quite a few times. He changed his team a lot. He changed his goalkeeper from game to game. I do respect De Zerbi. I think he's a good coach. I really do. And I do think he will go on to be a good manager at a big club. I do think he will get a job like that. But Manchester United and De Zerbi at the moment, I just don't think it's a great match. And I think it's too much of a risk for Manchester United to take. But there's no rumours that De Zerbi is going to get the job. He's just probably on a shortlist for Manchester United, like a lot of managers are on a shortlist for Manchester United. I mean, when you put De Zerbi on a shortlist with Thomas Tuchel, trying to say his name right now, everyone add me for that. I always thought it was Tuchel, honestly. Thomas Tuchel and Gareth Southgate and Graham Potter, where does De Zerbi then rank for you on that list? Because that is the case. You know, it's not set in stone that Erik Ten Hag is going to stay at Manchester United. There's a good chance he could go. Who would you want to bring in? And is De Zerbi a candidate that you would be happy with? Get your thoughts in the comments. Let's run a poll on it. If Ten Hag did leave, would you want De Zerbi to come in? And the comments from De Zerbi is, there isn't any club behind me. Nobody has offered me a job at this stage. I hope to work in the Premier League again. I don't know where and I don't know when. So De Zerbi again talking about how much he wants to work in the Premier League again. I mean, there's a reason that he's parted ways with Brighton. And can I just say on this, it was actually really refreshing to get that news. We had no idea it was coming, and it just came out of nowhere that De Zerbi was leaving Brighton. And there was all this talk previous on the season when De Zerbi was linked to Manchester United. Remember, we went through a phase where we were linked to a new manager very heavily. Every week we had the Southgate phase, we had the De Zerbi phase, we had the Potter phase, we've had the Tuchel stage. So in the De Zerbi phase, I mean, there was talks of a 15 million release clause with Brighton. Remember that, there was a 15 million release clause there with Brighton for De Zerbi, and that's why a lot of people are saying, oh, there's no way that Man United can get De Zerbi in because Brighton are going to ask for too high of a fee for him. I mean, he was linked to the Liverpool job a little bit, and everyone was saying Liverpool aren't going to go for him, it's a 15 million release clause, it's too high. Now that they've mutually parted ways, obviously that release clause doesn't still stand, but it really wouldn't surprise me if there's some sort of agreement there that he can't go and manage a Premier League club straight away next season, especially the likes of Manchester United, because then Brighton, they've just basically, agreed themselves out of 15 million, which would be a crazy thing to do. So I think there must be something there. I mean, I guarantee that there's something that isn't allowing him to move to a Manchester United or even a Chelsea or something like that this summer, because I can't understand how Brighton would allow themselves out of 15 million paycheck, because we know how frugal Brighton are and how they always get their bang for the buck. They always get the most amount of money they can out of every single deal. I wouldn't expect them to just allow De Zerbi to go and manage a Manchester United or a Chelsea this summer. Get your comments in now. I mean, we've got the poll running. If Ten Hag did leave, would you bring De Zerbi in? I mean, there is a question to be asked, because my preference, I want Erik Ten Hag to stay. I really do want Erik Ten Hag to stay. I mean, I've had so many messages and people tagging me in things saying, you're the reason that we have no standards at the club. You are wanting a manager to stay that's finished 8th in the Premier League. I am seeing past that, and I'm seeing as part of a project. I'm seeing part of the rebuild. I feel like Erik Ten Hag's only just getting a handle on this squad now. We are 2 years into a project. I don't want to do the reset button again. I really don't. I want to stick with Erik Ten Hag through the tough time and at least give him next season. If things don't work out then, I understand. Let's move on. I get it. But I want to at least give him next season under the new structure. While there's so much instability in the club, changing of sporting directors, changing of CEOs, changing of, hopefully, the medical department, changing of so many things, I think Erik Ten Hag being that anchor, having that stability, I think, is important for Manchester United, especially what's going to be a frantic transfer window where we've not fully got our CEO in place, we've not fully got our sporting director in place. Changing the manager as well, I think massively, massively rocks the ship and puts us in a really unstable position going into next season. I think give Ten Hag next season, give him the transfer window. That's my preference. I've said it. And even though it is our worst ever league finish, which is inexcusable for Manchester United, and Ten Hag would say that himself, it's not our worst ever points finish, which again is not like, yay, that's not an achievement. Like, that's not an achievement. It's a terrible, terrible season, and we've all got to understand that. Mistakes have been made, but my preference would be to stick with Erik Ten Hag. But if they don't do that in INEOS, and they do decide to get their own man in, you're looking at a situation where at the moment, Southgate, Potter and Tuchel are the names being thrown about. None of them give me excitement, I'm going to be honest. None of them. Some of them outright scare me. Like, Southgate massively scares me. I don't think it'll happen. Potter, he's just not somebody that I would envision as a Manchester United manager. Tuchel is probably the best out of the bad bunch in them three, but still he's not someone that I think he's going to massively progress us and be around for a long time and be that manager that's going to take us forward to right to the top level and progress us as a football club. I see him more as a stopgap kind of manager. And then you've got Zerbi now entering the picture as well. Now he's left Brighton, his name's going to keep coming up until INEOS make their decision and put it clear out there what that's going to be. Are you going to stick with Ten Hag, or are you going to move away and go for a new manager? And for the rumours to go away about any other manager, what INEOS need to do is come after the cup final, whether we lose, whether we draw, we can't draw, whether we lose or whether we win, they've got to say, new contract for Erik Ten Hag, or we're getting a new manager. That's what they've got to do. They've got to be honest about what their situation is with the manager going forward. Because the last thing we want going into the summer is, if they decide that they are sticking with Ten Hag and we don't go for a new manager, if they don't come out and say, you know, we're going to give Erik Ten Hag a contract extension, we are 100% sticking with Ten Hag. You know, when the Euros happens, like if England, you know, get far into the competition, which you would expect them to do so with the squad that they've got, you know that around the Euros, even if Ten Hag is in that Man United job, planning for the summer, getting people in, planning to go on the pre-season tour, you're going to hear newspaper articles. Sorry, you're going to read newspaper articles. You're going to hear in the media, Southgate is open to the Manchester United job. INEOS are still looking at getting Southgate in before the start of the season. They're not 100% decided on Ten Hag. You're going to hear these stories. They will happen. We do not need them stories in the summer. That's the last thing we need. If INEOS do want to stick with Ten Hag, and we are going to move with Ten Hag going forward into next season, they need to put out a statement, or they need to give him a contract. They need to do something to make it clear as day, we are not getting a new manager this summer. We are sticking with Erik Ten Hag for next season. That's what needs to happen. And if they don't do that, we'll hear about that very soon. And that's sort of the managers that we're looking at right now. And none of them give me too much hope and optimism. To be honest, if you give me a short list of Tuchel, Southgate, Potter and Zerbi, I'm going with Zerbi. I am. But that isn't me saying I want Zerbi as Man United manager. I don't. I want to stick with Ten Hag. And I think Zerbi is a huge, huge risk. I think he has been overrated a little bit. I think, you know, just like when a new player at Manchester United comes onto the scene, you know, fans like to overhype them and build them up. And I think it's great we get behind our players. But it's just like when Zerbi was absolutely smashing it last season with Brighton. Everybody's talking about him like he's the next Pep Guardiola. I think he's a good manager, but I think we just all need to remain calm about it. And I think there is a big chance if he goes to a top club, things could go massively, massively wrong. Just due to his style of management and his stubbornness. People call Erik Ten Hag stubborn. Zerbi's massively stubborn. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. And I think we will know. We will know. This time next week, I think we'll have a good indication of where things are going, because the cup final will have happened. And after the cup final, that's when the decision is going to be made. And I'm sure we'll start to hear about it very, very quickly, because with the manager situation comes the transfer window, and we need to know what sort of players we're going to sign, and we still don't really have much indication over that as of now. We've got rumours, but we've not got a huge indication over what routes we are going to go down. And clubs, all the other clubs who don't have a cup final to play, season's over, they will be starting their transfer business now. They will have planned it months in advance, more than what we have done, because we've not had the structure there, we've not had the sporting director, we've not had the CEO. There's been a lot of changes, and it's been a slow process. So they will, one, have planned it more than we have, but 2, they will be starting to have conversations and starting to move from the transfer window from today, really. The season's over. United have got a cup final, then they've got a manager decision to make. We're already behind going into this transfer window, so we'll need to make decisions quite quickly. So there's a lot to think about, to put it bluntly, and I'm excited, to be honest. I'm excited to see what the outcomes are. I'm excited to see how INEOS handle the transfer window. I'm excited to see who our manager's going to be next season. I hope it's Ten Hag, but there's a lot of rumours it might not be. So get in the comments what you guys think, and we've got a big, huge couple of weeks coming up, especially a big week with this transfer window, with this FA Cup upon us. Big week with this FA Cup upon us, a big, huge week, and then after that, all the decisions to come. Get your chat in. I see a lot of people saying delayed FC in the chat. That's how it feels, isn't it? It always feels like we're behind. It always feels like we're on the back burner. I mean, we've been like that for summers on end just because of a poor structure. This season, I don't think it's because of poor structure. I think it's because of the delays in getting our guys in place, the men that we want taking the club forward in terms of the structure of this football club. And that's unfortunate, but that's football sometimes, and we've just got to do the best we can under the circumstances that we do have. And one thing I would say is absolutely, certainly, whether we're delayed or not, the structure of Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox will be a better structure than Richard Arnold and John Murtough, 100%. 100%. So we are in a better position, but we're going to have to look at these quick deals and how we are going to rebuild a squad practically in one window with not much planning and not much preparation. And I know not everything can happen in one window. I'm not expecting that. But the fan base, what they are expecting is they're expecting players that aren't good enough to be moved on. They're expecting deadwood to be sold. And they're expecting key positions to come into this football club this summer. And we've got to do all that on a budget with FFP and no Europe as well. It's going to be a tough ask. Marcus Rashford says, "You are beautiful, Beth. Smile." I mean, don't think that's the real Marcus Rashford, but thank you very much for the compliment in the super chats, in the chat there. United One says, "I ask this again. Isn't it concerning how long it's taken Erik ten Hag to set the team up this way and finally get results? Why couldn't he find this shape earlier?" I agree with the United One. If you watched the fan forum last night, Ricky made a really good point, saying that he's been talking about this sort of structure of the team and the team shape for years. Ten Hag has only just kind of realised it towards the back end of the season, that this is how you don't get played through, this is how you don't get crucified. Ricky thinks it's because Bruno is injured and so he was forced to play a different style, which is why he realised it. I don't think that's the case. I honestly feel like Ten Hag is preparing for City. And he's been preparing for City for the last few weeks. City, the cup final against City, is the biggest game, for me, I think, of one of the biggest games of Erik ten Hag's career. Obviously, the semi-final against Spurs in the Champions League was a huge one. But this is a huge game in Ten Hag's career. You know, a lot of people talking about his job being on the line. Romano said to us a couple of weeks ago, I think a lot rests on the cup final for Erik ten Hag's future. Romano wouldn't say that if he didn't have some sort of inclination. We've got Romano on the show this afternoon. I can't wait to speak to him and get an update on it. But, you know, this is a huge game in Ten Hag's career. And he knows going into Manchester City that Man United's best chance of winning is having a good team shape, having a good structure, making it difficult for one of the best teams in the world, one of the best teams in Europe, if not the best team in Europe. So I think he's been preparing that, which is why we've seen our team shape change. I think obviously Bruno has been injured, which has contributed to it. But I think that's what Ten Hag's been doing. He's been testing out he's been testing out this structure. And is this the structure that can take us forward to beat Manchester City? I'm going to talk about it later on in the show. A lot of people are going to be disappointed, but I don't think Højlund will start in the cup final. I don't think he will. I think it will be that structure with the basically the 4-2-2. The 4-2-2, as it is, with Bruno and McTominay as the false nines. I think it will be that. Because I think Erik ten Hag has been testing the structure moving forward into how can I win this? What's my best chance of winning against Manchester City, the biggest game of my career? So that's what I think Ten Hag's been doing. So as your super chat is, yeah, okay, it's took Erik ten Hag a long time to set the team up this way. I think Ten Hag is stubborn, and I think Ten Hag next season will revert back to how we were playing earlier on in the season, not in terms of how poorly we were executing that style, but I think he will persist with that style. I think he's changed it coming into the later end of the season because he has to. He knows we can't set up with that style against City. We'll get crucified because it's not well executed yet, and he's not managed to get it functioning across the season. He's not managed to do so. The best chance of beating City is doing what we've done the last few weeks, so Ten Hag's had to kind of compromise what he was trying to do across the whole season because he wants to beat Manchester City, and that's just where we're at right now. So that's what I think it is personally. Sanil Dewan says, Zerbi was a one-season show, not made for United. And Michael Doherty says, looking well, Beth, so glad the season is over. We've got to remain positive. Hopefully the club begins the call soon. Yep, we need to make decisions really quickly. And Tracy Taylor says, morning, Beth, have you seen reports about Greenwood match being stopped after who's being called in the Mail? Thanks. One sec. Morning, Beth. Have you seen reports about Greenwood match being stopped after what he was being called in the Mail? Thanks. Tracy, I don't understand what you're trying to tell me there. If anyone can clarify that in the chat, I would answer that question. I just don't understand what you're asking me. But look, everyone in the comments, get your thoughts in. Joe H, they will sack Ten Hag after this final, and rightfully so. Then other people saying massively stick with Ten Hag. So a lot of people split on this, but I do think the majority probably want Ten Hag to stay. If Ten Hag did leave, would you bring in Zerbi? The results of the poll so far are, it's not coming up for me because it's not working again. I'll be told on that in a second. The results of the poll is 72% no, and the rest say yes. So 70% say no, they would not bring in Zerbi if Ten Hag did leave. I again ask the question, if Ten Hag does leave, you're going to have to bring in someone. Out of Tuchel, Zerbi, Potter and Southgate, Zerbi would be the one I would go for. But I agree with you guys, you don't even want to think about that because none of them particularly rock my boat. None of them are managers I think that would suit us right now going into this next chapter under INEOS. I think the best solution is to stick with Ten Hag. It just remains whether INEOS do want to do that, and we'll see that decision very soon. But in terms of after we decide on the manager situation, we're going straight into a transfer window, a very crucially important transfer window for Manchester United moving forward. We've not had a lot of preparation for it. We've not even nailed down our top targets particularly yet. We've got players that we've been looking at, Olise, Branthwaite, Todibo, Frimpong. There's players that we can, João Neves is another one that we know Manchester United are very keen on. There is players that Manchester United have scouted. There is players that are at the top of the scouting list. We heard about Ivan Toney the other day, Benjamin Sesko. There is players that we are looking at. But at this point, we usually have kind of nailed on targets. We don't even have that right now. We don't, because we are a little bit behind. We are in a situation where we've not been able to get in the Dan Ashworths of this world. Omar Brada doesn't start until July. So we're going to have to make deals quickly because we don't have time to hang about. If you think about Manchester United this summer, we do not have the time to chase De Jong all summer just to not get him and panic buy at the end of the window. We don't have time to do these things that we have done in the past. We are way behind Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, even Spurs, Aston Villa. We are way behind clubs in this league. We are 8th right now, and it's our worst ever Premier League finish in terms of place. Points, I think we're 2 points higher than what we were under Rangnick. Rangnick was the worst ever point scorer in Man United side. That was 58. This season it's 60. It's nothing to write home about. We have a goal difference of -1. It's an embarrassment. And we need a lot of change this summer. We need a mass exodus of players leaving the football club that aren't going to take us forward, but we also need to bring players in. I mean, if you ask a Man United fan what positions Manchester United need to look at in the summer transfer window, you'll get told 2 centre-backs, right back, left back, midfielder, if not even 2 midfielders, a right winger and a striker. It's basically a whole team people would list. I mean, I'm not talking just all for a first team. Some need competition for places. For example, the right back situation. I'm more than happy with Diogo Dalot, but it would be good to bring someone in to compete with him because I think Wan-Bissaka does need moving on. There's situations like that. So Man United are going to have to firstly prioritise positions because we're not going to be able to do all of them in one window. But secondly, we're going to have to sell players to fund our budget. We are on strict, tight budget with FFP, and we're in a situation where we have no Europe to kind of increase our budget going into the summer. So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made in terms of how much money are we spending on per position, what positions are our priority, who are we going to go for that we're going to be able to get in on the cheap, but is also quality that is going to be able to start for Manchester United and be a good signing for us. Because there's, I get the idea of going for cheap players or players on a free or players with a release clause, but there's no good going for that if they're not going to be able to match the standard of what we need for Manchester United and take us forward. It's like when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer desperately wanted Jack Grealish. We didn't go for him because he was around 80 million at the time, what Villa wanted. We ended up going for Donny van de Beek instead as a substitute. Donny van de Beek is absolutely nothing like Jack Grealish in terms of attributes at all. Yeah, it was a cut price. He was 40 million, Jack Grealish was 80. But looking back, we would have been way better off spending the extra money on Jack Grealish because Donny van de Beek just was not suited to us at the time, and it was a massively poor signing. So United have not only got to go for deals that are going to be economically good for the club and are going to allow us to spread our money across different positions and cheap deals, basically. Let's not dress it up. Cheap deals, we're gonna have to be looking at them, but we also need to be looking at cheap deals that are going to elevate us and are not just going to turn into deadwood 2 or 3 years down the line. So it's an important job, it's an important role for INEOS kind of moving forward. Jason Wilcox is going to head that up going into the summer with the help of Omar Barada when he can come in from Manchester City. And what deals can we do quickly at the start of the transfer window? What deals can we just get under our belt to allow us to move on to other positions? Because there's a lot to do this summer. And you look at it and you think, Olise. Olise is one that we can do straight away. 60 million release clause in and around there. Man United, we've heard, are quietly confident about getting this deal done. The player's open to leaving Crystal Palace. That is a deal that we can get wrapped up. Apparently, Olise isn't fazed by the fact United isn't in Europe. He's a fan of Manchester United from, a boyhood Manchester United fan. That is something that Manchester United could get wrapped up. A lot of people will say we don't need to prioritise a right winger. We do. Just because Ahmad's had a good few games does not mean we don't need a right winger. What we need going into next season is we need a situation where Rashford and Garnacho are competing for the left wing and Olise and Amad Diallo are competing for the right wing. You need competition, you need balance. Olise will bring that balance. We need creativity in the front line. The front line has underperformed this season. Garnacho has been very good at certain points of the season, and the amount of starts he's had, credit to the guy, but he shouldn't be starting that many games in a row. Rashford's been nowhere to be seen. Anthony has just had, a terrible season realistically in terms of what you would have expected for Anthony to bring in terms of his price tag and anything like that. Amad Diallo's basically not been given a chance, and we've only just seen him towards the end of the season. Højlund is overperformed, I feel like, in a underperforming Manchester United side, but he still isn't the finished article, and he still is adapting to the Premier League. His first season, he needs the burden lifted off his shoulders. He needs a little bit of pressure taken off him, and he needs someone to learn with. United's front line does need some investment. That doesn't mean there's no future for the players we've already got. It absolutely does. There's a massive future for Garnacho, Højlund, hopefully Ahmad. Every player in the front line for Man United I want to do well. I would love it if Anthony and Rashford turned it around next season and started pulling up trees. There's nothing I want more than that. But we need to invest into that front line. Goal difference of -1. They've not been performing this season. And Olise, I've come round to the idea that he definitely is a signing that Manchester United could do with. And I think it is important for us to get in that balance in the front line. That 60 million, that's something that could be wrapped up very, very, very early. It also makes it easier for Manchester United that Olise hasn't been called up to the French squad. I mean, Gareth Southgate could still call him up to the England squad. He's eligible to be called up to either one. But I think it's crazy, by the way, that he hasn't been called up to the French squad. Deschamps, I think, made an error in not doing that, because I think he's deservedly so. He got an assist again yesterday for Crystal Palace, and Palace are just tearing it up. I think Olise, he's got so much quality. There's no doubt of his quality. So the fact he's not going to the Euros as it stands, Man United can get in contact with the players' camp, get in contact with Crystal Palace. That's a deal that can be done very, very quickly. That's a deal that shouldn't take long for Man United. That could be done so quick. You pay the release clause, Palace have to let him go. you know, you sort out the wages with Olise, which shouldn't be too difficult. I don't think we'll make the same mistake again as what we did with Jadon Sancho and Anthony. We've given them massive wages. I think under INEOS, we'll put that wage structure in place. The only hurdle we could run into is if, you know, an Arsenal or a Manchester City or a Chelsea come into this race and try and get Olise as well. If it's a one-horse race, Olise should be a Manchester United player very, very quickly. If it's not, we'll get clarification from Romano today on the show. We've got Romano on the show later on this afternoon. We'll get clarity on who's going in for Olise, but that is a deal that we should be able to get done. He won't be at the Euros. Around 60 million. It's a good amount of money to spend for a player of his quality and his age. That could be a good deal for Manchester United. That's done quickly at the start of the transfer window and allows us to just move on to another position straight away. Got some super chats coming in, and then we'll talk about what we would need to do to get Olise in, because it's not as simple as just paying the 60 million and welcome to Man United. We do need to sell. You know, we've got two right wingers in Sancho and Greenwood who haven't got a future at this football club. If we don't sell him, we're in a situation where we've got Ahmad, Greenwood, Sancho, Olise, Anthony. We've got 5 right wingers going into the season. So we need to be selling Greenwood and Sancho to fund the Olise deal to happen, to fund the Olise deal and for it to happen. Ben Niblet says, Olise and Eze double deal, what you think? Eze is so talented, and I think he's such a talented player, but we won't go for him because we don't need his position right now. He's more the Bruno role, and we've got Bruno, we've got Mount. So whoever does end up getting Eze at some point, I mean, he's a silly good player. I think he's super talented, honestly. So I think Eze's actually probably got a higher ceiling than Olise, but Olise's more of the position that we want. Olise I still think is really good as well, but Eze is a top player. Nick P says, I just had a Wan-Bissaka flashback there, Beth, when you said Olise wants to come and was a boyhood supporter. Everything feels like it's on repeat. Nick, I think Olise has a lot more technical ability than Aaron Wan-Bissaka. As much as Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been a good servant to the club, and as a rotational right back, I don't mind him. We never should have paid that money for Wan-Bissaka, really. I don't know how you scout that many right backs, and Wan-Bissaka's the one that we brought in. We did it, and I don't want to disrespect Wan-Bissaka because he's been a good servant to the club and he's always got his head down, worked hard, but he's not good enough for Man United. He's not good enough on the ball. He's not good enough technically. He's someone we should be looking to move on. Tracy Taylor says, Beth, the other fans were calling him. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about there. I don't want to talk about that on this show, Tracy, to be honest with you. That's nothing really to do with United right now. So, yeah, Greenwood will leave in the summer. What's happened with him in La Liga isn't really something I want to talk about on the show. But it's I do think he will leave and go to a different league next summer. Shane Gates says, Sir Jim said that managers have not been given the structures to succeed for the last 10 years. It would be sad if they got rid of Ten Hag before giving them structure in what he needs to succeed. Shane Gates, I agree with you. Great super chat. Thank you very much for that. Keep getting your comments in. And if Ten Hag did leave, would you bring Zerbi in? 73% of you says no. So yeah, on Olise, should be a quick and easy deal. 60 million release clause. Thank you very much. Not going to the Euros. Get the conversations going. Medical done. Holding up the United shirt. That should be a quick deal to be done. If it's smooth, straightforward, and if no other clubs kind of come in and challenge United. Even then, so you would think United should be able to get that deal done quickly, or at least get that wrapped up quickly in terms of whether we're going to buy him or not. But like I said, we need to sell Greenwood and Sancho. Greenwood and Sancho are huge fee, well, not huge fees, but a huge players that we need to get rid of. Because Sancho under Ten Hag, if Ten Hag is still manager, won't be playing for Manchester United next summer. Greenwood, there's not a way back for him at Manchester United, in my opinion. 2 players that are going to leave. So we need to get these players shifted out quickly. And to do that, we need to be getting bids in for these players. We need these players to kind of be attracting interest from other clubs. Whether that happens is remain to be seen, because what my question would be is, are we going to buy Olise before we sell Greenwood or Sancho? Or are we going to wait to sell Greenwood and Sancho and then buy Olise? Because it's like, do you just risk it and spend a big portion of our summer budget on Olise straight away with the hope in the back of your head, we're going to get that money back for Sancho and Greenwood when we sell them anyway? Or do you think, you know what, there's a lot of positions we need. We need centre-back, we need striker, we need a midfielder. We're going to try and sell Greenwood and Sancho first to get some money in the pot before we decide to go and spend the 60 million on Olise. Get in the comments down below what you would do. I mean, there was a story coming out from The Sun around Jadon Sancho, and again, it is The Sun, so take it with a pinch of salt. But obviously, Jadon Sancho doing very well at Borussia Dortmund. Manchester United have seemingly changed their asking price for Jadon Sancho this summer as INEOS look to raise funds at Old Trafford. Sancho revived his form during a loan spell at Borussia Dortmund, helping them reach the Champions League final, which has earned Manchester United a further 4.3 million on top of the initial 3 million fee they received once the loan move materialised. According to The Sun, Manchester United are seeking to recoup 75% of the £73 million they paid for the winger 3 years ago. This places Sancho's price tag at just under 55 million, whereas previous reports said that Manchester United would be willing to accept 35 to 40 million for Jadon Sancho. So again, it's coming from The Sun, but what they're basically trying to say is that before Jadon Sancho got this hype around him for Dortmund, got to the Champions League final for Dortmund, United were very happy to let Sancho go for around 35 to 40 million because at the end of the day, there was no way back from it. Manchester United, he's on huge wages, just getting off the books is good for us. But 35 to 40 million, he's not really had any sort of hype when he was playing for Manchester United. His form had gone off a cliff since he'd come to Manchester United from Dortmund. They were happy to get 35 to 40 million in. Now they've seen him play really well for Dortmund. Now the whole world has seen his talent on the big stage again in the Champions League. United are wanting more of like a 55 million fee for Jadon Sancho, apparently. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody is paying 55 million for Jadon Sancho. I also don't think INEOS will be like 55 million for Sancho or nothing because we need to sell him. I honestly think around 40 million for Jadon Sancho is reasonable. Are we underselling him for his talent? Probably, but you've got to face the fact Man United are going to get rid of a huge wage in 300 grand a week. That's massively important. You're going to be getting rid of a player that doesn't have a future at the club under this current manager if we do stick with him going forward. And we need to get some sort of feedback for him. We need to sort out that situation because if we don't, it could be another situation where United are having to loan him out. And we cannot be loaning out Sancho next season. It has to be a sale. So I think around 40 million is fair. And I think Manchester United will be very happy if they get that sort of fee for him. I think it's just one of them again where United want to get the best fee possible. You know, if you go into a summer window saying, yeah, we will take 30, 35 mil for Sancho, clubs are going to bid low. You want them to think, you know, Man United kind of are going to want a high fee for Sancho, and then you kind of create this situation where you have the negotiations and United get 40 million. I think that would be more than a fair fee for Sancho considering the position we're in where we are desperate to get rid of him. I mean, there is a situation where we get a new manager in and Ten Hag isn't the manager and Sancho stays at the club. That could happen. I doubt it. We have heard a lot of reports that even if it is a new manager, Sancho will still leave and he doesn't want to come back to United, and Man United still want to kind of part ways with him. I think Jadon Sancho, the saga will end this summer, and I think he will end up leaving Man United whether Ten Hag stays or not. Is that the right thing to do? I think if you're looking to get Olise in, which INEOS are massive fans are, he was an INEOS target that Ten Hag has approved of. There's no room for Sancho if you get Olise in, so I think Sancho will go. And then with Greenwood, you know, that's pure profit in terms because he's come from the academy. 35 million for Greenwood would be brilliant. 35 plus 40, there you're looking at about 75 million in fees from Jadon Sancho and from Greenwood, plus you're getting Jadon Sancho's massive wage off the books. That is some good bit of business done at the start of the window. Get Olise in for 60 million. That's good business for Manchester United. That's smart business. Whether we can do that quickly remains to be seen. I mean, we could be in a situation where we actually can't sell Greenwood and Sancho that quickly and it lingers for a long time. So we spend the money on Olise to make sure we get him, and then we're waiting around to sell Greenwood and Sancho, and you get towards the end of the window and United start to get desperate and we have to accept low fees for them both. You don't want to be in that situation. We want to be getting Greenwood and Sancho situations and the sales of them wrapped up very quickly at the start of the transfer window. It's a big job for Jason Wilcox and whoever is handling that at the start of the window. I will say that for a start. He's on 350 grand a week. I thought he'd gone down to 300 grand because we hadn't got Champions League. Maybe not. I mean, got Champions League this season. And because of the bonuses, I feel like they'd been cut off. But, you know, 350, 300, it's still too much money. Way too much money for Jadon Sancho. Other quick deals that we could be doing, get in the chat what your thoughts are on this. Jeremy Frimpong, 34 million release clause, something I'll ask Romano about this afternoon. Is that something you'd want to go for? Jeremy Frimpong had an unbelievable season with Leverkusen. For me, would we just be buying Frimpong for this just because he's 34 mil? It's like, oh, people, do you know what? My analogies have been so poor recently, but I'm going to do another analogy. It's like you go into, you know, you go in shopping, you go in clothes shopping, you go in shoes shopping, and you've already got, you know, a good selection of trainers. You've got a good selection of different type of footwear that you're very, very happy with. But you go into, you know, the shop and they've got a really nice pair of trainers on sale. And you think, I don't need them, but I want them. And that is a good deal. Is that what Manchester United are going to do in terms of Frimpong? Because Frimpong's a very good player. And for 34 million for a player of his quality is an absolute steal. But in terms of the positions that are a priority for us this summer, is it really a deal that's a priority, or are we only doing it because it's 34 million and because it's good value? It's like with Mason Mount last year. As much as I wanted him and I was an advocate of that, Man United, I think, only did it because it was an opportunity where he was on the last year of his deal. Other clubs were going to get him if we didn't move for it, but it wasn't actually a priority for us. I think Man United need to focus on priorities. And as much as Frimpong is a top player and he's someone I think for 34 million is a steal, is he going to work in the system? Is it a priority we need to go for? I mean, we need a left back, we need centre backs, we need a midfielder, we're getting a right wing, we're getting a striker. Like, do we really need that? Do you really need them shoes that are on sale, or do you just want it because they're nice shoes? Or could you really be spending your money elsewhere on something else? That's the thing I think about with Jeremy Frimpong. But I do think we will see them sort of deals for Manchester United this summer, the quick deals, the release clauses, and Frimpong is someone there with a release clause. So United could be interested in that, and Frimpong has been a long-term target under Erik Ten Hag since he came to the club. We are crying out for his sort of creativity, and you know, we're talking about how we need more creativity from our fullbacks, from the wings. Frimpong would definitely provide that, but is it a priority? I don't think so, and I don't think United will do it. And I think there'll be a lot of competition as well. You know, look at Frimpong. I think Liverpool could be interested. Real Madrid apparently have been interested. I mean, there will be other teams interested in Frimpong. We know he wants to come back to the Premier League. Ten Hag's been a long-term admirer. That's one that I'm really 50-50 on. If I had the hotter meter here, you know, the Mark's famous hotter meter, I'd have Frimpong at around 5 out of 10, 50% chance. I'm not certain on it, but it's definitely the type of deal that Man United are probably looking to do. Also, Todibo, that's the one that should get wrapped up relatively early. Varane is confirmed he's leaving the club. We're a centre-back down. Todibo's someone that we've been looking at for, I think, nearly 2 years now. It's going to be an easy deal to do. Apparently, that Nice are willing to let him go for around 40 million. That is a good price, I feel like, to bring in a good level centre-back to Manchester United this summer. Ten Hag, another long-term admirer. Manchester United have signed that deal off as well, the scouting department at Manchester United. We nearly went for him last summer when it looked like Maguire was going to go. It was him and Pavard that we were looking at. Todibo is someone, I mean, Sir Jim owns Nice. He owns 25% of Man United. That's a deal that should get wrapped up quite quickly. So, you know, if you do them deals quickly, say if you get a Olise and a Todibo in very quickly early in the transfer window, you've then already got one of your two centre-backs in and your right winger. And then you can look to the midfield, the strikers. You know, that's a situation that Manchester United need to be in, need to check off these positions because we've not got all the time in the world. We've not got unlimited budgets. Olise, 60 million release clause. It's a very good deal for a player of that quality. Todibo, 40 million for a good defender coming into Manchester United. again, it's a good deal. He's not going to be on silly wages. And Todibo is another one who hasn't been called up to the French squad. So you can get that deal done quickly. You can talk to his entourage, you can talk to his agents. That's a deal that can be done quickly. So they're two signings that I think Manchester United could get done right at the start of the transfer window. And some Chunky Chunk says, yes, but we have to move on players on first. Well, with Varane's going, so that's Todibo. Todibo comes in for Varane. And like I just said on Sancho and Greenwood, they need to move on for Olise to come in. With the midfielder, we'll talk to Romano about it, but I think there's a very good chance Casemiro leaves. As soon as Casemiro goes, we get the money in for him. That's when we go for the midfielder. Striker's going to be very interesting because we're not getting rid of anyone. Well, Martial's going on a free. We know that. But we need a striker no matter what. No one's departing for a striker to come in. We're buying a striker. So that's something we can crack on with right from the get-go of the transfer window. It's not as if we're waiting on anyone to leave to bring in a striker in. We're bringing a striker in no matter what, alongside Rasmus Højlund. Who we're going to go for? Who we're going to move for? Is that going to be the saga of the summer? There's always one saga for United. Is the striker going to be that? I think it's going to be difficult for a striker in terms of price, wage, age, profile. We've talked about Ivan Toney being high up on the list, Benjamin Sesko being up on the list. It's going to be interesting, something I'm definitely going to ask Romano this afternoon. But last but not least, to finish off the show, I was going to say, this is just my prediction for the FA Cup final. I think it will be the exact same team that we started with yesterday, apart from one change. I think Casemiro will go into the midfield for Amrabat and Varane will start. That's what I think it'll be. That's what I think it'll be. I don't think Højlund will start. I think he'll come on off the bench. And I think his attributes of running, it pace, it defenders late on in the game could be absolutely huge for us. But we've got to stay in the game against City. We've got to stay in the game against City. That's what we've got to do in order to make that worthwhile and to make that Højlund substitution pay off. Højlund might well start. I don't think he will. I don't think Rashford will start either. Maybe Ahmad might get sacrificed for Rashford. That could happen. Ahmad could get sacrificed for Rashford. I don't think it should happen, but I think it will be the 4-2-2 again, where it's Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez and Dalot. Then you'll have Mainu and Casemiro. Then you'll have Garnacho and Ahmad, or Garnacho and Rashford potentially. Rashford might sneak his way in. I don't think he should, but he might. And Rashford has got a big record against City. It's a question for you guys. Would you put Rashford in there over Ahmad? I personally would play Ahmad instead. Keeps hold of the ball, retains possession. I think defensively is sound as well, and we're going to need that against their fullbacks. You know, Gvardiol and Walker, they are big presences going into the final third for Manchester City. And then the front two false nines, I think, will be Højlund and Bruno. Not Højlund and Bruno, sorry. I think will be McTominay and Bruno. So, just take through again. Onana, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Dalot, Mainu, Casemiro, Garnacho, Ahmad, Bruno and McTominay. That is what I think the team will be. I think we'll have Højlund and Rashford coming on off the bench. Get in the comments down below what you think. I think Rashford and Højlund will be the impact players in that game. I think that's what he'll go with. Get in the comments down below what you think. And then last but not least, Onana on the overlap. Again, I suggest you all go and take a look at that and go and watch that interview. It was very insightful. The work that he's been doing for his foundation as well was really interesting to hear about. And not only, I think, a great player, but a great guy. Onana's had a very difficult season at Manchester United. It's took him a while to adapt in terms of, he definitely wasn't a great player at the start of the season. I think he was really poor. But 2024, he's come good. And I think he's developing game by game and he's becoming more solid game by game. A few key standout quotes that I wanted to mention to you guys. He says, he gets asked about the criticism that he's received this season. And he says, if things and when things are going wrong, don't go for the youngest player. I am here to take it. Casemiro and Harry Maguire are there and we are used to it. So he's basically saying, I'm happy to take the criticism. I don't want the young players to take it. I'll take the criticism. Bruno will take it. Casemiro and Harry Maguire will take it. These are players that are used to getting criticism from Manchester United and we're the seniors in the squad. I think that's a good mentality to have. He also said on whether criticism from ex-players hurts him. To be honest, for me, I don't pay attention to it. I joined this team to take bullets. Again, great mentality there from Onana. He also speaks about the difficult start at Manchester United, and he said, I had to adapt after joining Manchester United. It took me 6 months not to play good, but to feel good. So he's talking about that adaptation to English football. And he said, you know, it's happened in the past with other goalkeepers. He's coming from a long line of very successful goalkeepers, Van der Sar, Schmeichel, David De Gea. It is a big responsibility. It's the most criticised position in football, being Manchester United's number one. It's took him a while to adapt, but he has adapted now, and he's very happy with the progression that he's making. And he's talking about how good he feels like next season we're going to be. Positivity there from Andre Onana. And then he also gets asked about Erik Ten Hag, and he says he's not there to defend him because Ten Hag's his own man, but he's the same manager as the one that he knew at Ajax. He said this has just been a difficult season. They can't use injuries as an excuse, but there has been a lot of injuries. A very, very difficult season, but he says that he's sure next season will be better, and Ten Hag is the same manager and the same coach. He said the training's good, the training sessions are good, and he's positive, looking forward to next season. And it's crucial that Manchester United bring home the FA Cup from Wembley for the Man United fans. Easier said than done, let's just say that. But look, everyone, get all your comments in about the deals that Man United should be doing at the start of the transfer window. Roberto De Zerbi, would you want him in? Would you not want him in? Let me know your thoughts on that. Do you think that Erik Ten Hag will still be manager at the end of the season? And if he wasn't, who would be the manager that you'd bring in? Also, thoughts on the FA Cup final. Do you think Højlund will start? Do you think Rashford will start? I am sticking with that prediction that I just said there. Whether that would be what I would go for, I think it would be, you know. As good as Højlund's been off the bench the last 2 games, I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, bringing him off the bench could be a massive weapon for us. I've been debating it back and forth in my head. I was thinking last night, as on my drive home from the forum, I was thinking this morning, would I start Højlund, would I not? And I think I would stick with the team that I actually just read out before. And I think that's one Ten Hag will go with as well. Let me know your thoughts. Please hit a like on the video on your way out. Remember, everyone, Romano on the show today. It's going to be a very good show. Got loads to ask him. Transfer targets, Erik Ten Hag's future. Make sure you tune into that. And we will see you on the next one, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning.